Excellent. Well, it is 1 o'clock Central Time. So excited to be with you all. Hey, everyone, welcome. Grab your lunch, grab a coffee refill, get comfortable. We are going to cover a little bit of practical groundwork today, and I promise you will leave with things you can actually use this week, not next quarter. This week. So take a moment for all of those that are joining on, scan that Slido code for our polls. Our Q&A will be in here as well, and this helps prep for our session. So while we're getting started, drop in the chat where you're joining from and what size organization you work with. I'd love to know who is in the room with us. We are going to get rolling here in about 30 seconds. So drop in the chat where you're joining from and what organization size you work with. Welcome, everyone. We're just popping into the chat where you're joining from and what size organization you work with. And for those that are just jumping on, take a quick scan of the QR code or type in the Slido code to join us for our polls and our Q&A. Excellent. Well, while everyone is popping those things in the chat, we are going to get started. My name is Amy Sexton Stanislavski, and I'm a CFRE. I'm also the founder of the RD Pro Coach and AES Consulting. And before that, I spent over 15 years in nonprofit fundraising leadership. I've managed direct teams. I've managed different donor relationships at national organizations. So when I talk about donor retention, it's not something that I've necessarily read in a book. I've talked about actual lived experience. And today, you're going to get 5 proven strategies for keeping donors engaged, giving, and deeply connected to your mission. We're also going to talk about some things that are killing your retention that you might not even realize are happening. And at the end, you're going to leave with a 30-day action plan that's completely doable, even if you are a team of 1. Let's go. And I understand the chat is disabled. I will work on that as we are jumping into our first poll question. So again, if you haven't joined us yet, jump on at Slido, and we'll get started with our first poll. So before I want to dig into the sector data, I really want to know where we're starting. You've got a quick poll up in Slido right now, and the code's on the screen. So take 30 seconds and tell me, what's your organization's first year donor retention rate? Excellent. And our chat is enabled. I see most are answering in that 35 to 50%. That's fantastic. We'll give it just another minute or so. Excellent. 35 to 50% is fantastic. Hey, Melina. Perfect. I love that. Okay. And if anyone else wants to join the poll, please do so. But most organizations are losing the majority of their first-time donors every single year. And it's not necessarily a crisis that you can out fundraise. We're going to talk about how to fix it. Now, I love to see that some of you are right in the range of some of our national statistics. But I want to draw your attention to some additional stats that I think are important, specifically 18.1%. This is the current first year donor retention rate for the nonprofit sector as a whole. And this comes from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project in 2025. So this is the 2024 data and beyond. That means for every 100 first-time donors your organization acquired last year, 82 of them are not going to give again. 82! That's a big number. And the overall retention rate, which is the blended number across all donors, is only sitting at 43%. We've been below as a sector for below 50% for over 10 consecutive years. And this is not a blip. It's a structural problem in our sector. Now, here's the number that should make every one of you sit up a little bit straighter. It is 5 times cheaper to retain a donor than to acquire a new one. 5 times. So every time a donor leaves because you didn't either acknowledge their gift fast enough, or you sent them a generic letter, or maybe you went silent for 8 months in between their gift and your next ask, that's not just a relationship failure. That's a math problem. You can't outraise a leaky bucket. Every dollar spent acquiring a new donor you don't keep is money lost. And that's the whole session in one sentence. So keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to come back to that leaky bucket theory. Here's what we're covering today, and I'm going to move through this with intention because I want to make sure you leave with everything you came for. We're going to talk about why this retention crisis is happening. And it's not just the economy, though that is part of it. We're going to look at 3 donor segments you absolutely must treat differently if you want to stop the bleeding. Then we're going into the actual 5 strategies. These 5 strategies are actual, practical, and implementable immediately, starting with the one thing that has the highest ROI of anything you could do this week. We'll talk about monthly giving. We'll talk about lapsed donors and the metrics that tell you there's a problem before it becomes a crisis. And then we'll close out with a 30-day action plan that you can start today. This is not about theory. We're not using consultant speak today. We're just doing what actually works. We're going to focus on what works and what you can implement today. So why is this happening? Because I hear this question constantly. We're doing everything right. Why are our donors leaving? And the honest answer is it's not just one thing. It's 3 things heading at the same time. And first is economic pressure. Inflation has hit mid-level donors particularly hard. We're seeing affluent household giving participation drop from 91% in 2015 to 81% in 2024. That's a dramatic pullback. And it's happening at every income level, not just at the margins. The second is donor fatigue. Donors today are giving to more causes than ever and feeling less connected to any of them. They're constantly bombarded with asks, with urgency appeals, with match campaigns. And when every organization is screaming for their attention, silence becomes a competitive advantage. The organizations that invest in relationship building, not transactional work, are the ones that are keeping donors. And third, and this one stings because it's 100% within our control, is communication failure. 77% of donors who stopped giving said they left because they felt unappreciated or they didn't know what their gift accomplished. 77%. That's not donor apathy. That's organizational neglect. And it's the most preventable cause of donor loss in this entire sector. But here's the good news, and I really mean this. Retained donors who give for 2 or more years account for 62% of all dollars raised from individuals. 62%. The math on retention is overwhelming, and the strategies exist. So let's use them. Let's collectively decide to employ those strategies at our organizations. So before I go into strategies, I really want to know what your biggest pain point is, because this is not a one-size-fits-all problem. We've got another Slido up. Tell me, which segment is keeping you up at night? Which segment is keeping you up at night? Mid-level donor, lapsed donors, okay? All of the above. I had a feeling that one might be popular. Sibon taking the lead, okay. So this helps me understand where your pain points are. And I'm going to make sure that every single one of these get addressed today before we're done. But I think it's really important to understand as a group where we're at collectively. Here's one mistake that I see organizations make constantly. They treat every donor exactly the same. Same letter, same appeal, same cadence, and it costs them, especially at the top end. So let me give you 3 segments that you absolutely need to start treating differently today. The first time donors. As I mentioned earlier, only 18.1% give again. And the reason isn't that they changed their mind about your mission. It's that you haven't made them feel like insiders yet. They gave once and now they're testing you. They're watching to see if you're the kind of organization that actually notices when someone shows up. Your move is here. Here is where you make an important distinction for your organization. Within 48 hours, start a welcome series. And that welcome series could be a phone call or a handwritten note from your executive director. Make them feel like they've joined something, not just given to something. The second is lapsed donors, your LIBONs and your SIBONs, otherwise known as your last year, but unfortunately not this year, or some year, but unfortunately not this year. These donors liked you, but something broke the connection. And in my experience, it was almost always silence from the organization, not necessarily a change of heart from them. So here's your next move, a LIBON and SIBON reactivation campaign. Personalized outreach that references their last gift specifically. Don't apologize. Just reconnect with impact. Show them what you're doing and how it makes a difference in the community. And the third, mid-level donors, the $1,000 to $10,000 range. This is by far the fastest growing and the least cultivated segment in the nonprofit sector. These donors are currently being treated like annual fund donors in most scenarios, and they're not. They are your major gift pipeline, and they need something different, which is what we're going to talk about in just a minute. When we're thinking about strategies to really tie in to help bolster our retention rates, first one, this is the one. This is the main one. If you do nothing else, if you take nothing else from today's session, do this one thing and you will see a measurable difference in retention within 90 days. It's a very quick turnaround, quick ROI. And before I tell you what great acknowledgement looks like, I want to know where you're starting. So pop in the chat, how long does it take currently for your organization to acknowledge a gift? Be honest. What does it take right now? How long does it take for your organization to acknowledge a gift? Oh, awesome, Madison. Love to see it. 48 hours, several business days, depending on the method. Okay, Melina. All right. 5 to 10 days. Okay, Marianne. Online immediate checks are longer. That makes sense. Buffy, same week. Okay. All right. So here's what this tells me. Some of you might be leaving retention on the table every single time a gift comes in, because here's the standard, 48 hours. Every single gift, every single time. When you thank someone within 24 to 48 hours, they are 4 times likely to give again. 4 times on something that costs you a phone call or stamp. So what does great acknowledgments actually look like? They're personalized. It uses the donor's name and references their specific gift amount. It's also impact focused. It tells them exactly what their gift made possible, not what your organization does in general. It's also timely. Within 48 hours is the gold standard. And ideally, if you can swing it, 24 hours. It's human. It's signed by a real person, not the development team or the executive team or the insert organization here team. And sometimes it's surprising. A phone call when they expected an email, that one they'll remember forever. So be surprising, be unexpected. But here's what it's not. It's not a tax receipt with a one-line thank you tacked on it. It's not a dear friend or dear donor salutation that signals that you don't know them. A generic letter mailed 3 weeks after the gift arrived, it's not that either. And finally, it's not an automated email with no personalization and no impact language. Automation is terrific, but we've got to embed those pieces because the thank you is not a formality. It's your single highest leverage retention tool. So take the extra time to build in those automation and build in the personalization into those automations and save yourself a little bit of time. And strategy 2, and I need you to hear this one clearly. Most organizations steward donors reactively. They steward donors as a reaction to the gift, meaning the only time they reach out is when they're about to make another ask. That's not stewardship. It's manipulation. And donors know the difference, even if they can't articulate it. And they're leaving in droves because of it. A written stewardship plan changes everything. And when I say written, I mean it's on a calendar, it has an owner, and it happens whether or not you feel like it that day. And here's a potential 5 touch point plan and what that looks like. Day 1 to 2, gift receipt and acknowledgement. Ensure it's got personalized acknowledgments tied to it. It can be a letter and a tax receipt, but that personalization needs to be there. If the gift is 500 or more, the board chair should sign it, and there should likely be a phone call to follow. Month 1 to 2, an impact update, not a general newsletter, not a general email blast, a short story or a photo that shows the gift at work, ideally featuring a beneficiary. You can do email, you can do a postcard, but make the donor the hero of the story, not your organization. Be a little different. Many people utilize the organization as the main driver. Make it all about the donor. In month 4 to 5, have a check-in. Could be a phone call. It could just be a handwritten note. No ask, just a, hey, we're thinking of you and we're grateful for your support. Full stop. This touch point costs almost nothing, and it's the one most organizations skip entirely. Month 10 to 11, your year-end report, annual impact summary, any personalized giving history. Show what the full year of support made possible by their gift. Help draw them and connect the impact to them personally. The theme here is personalization. And then finally, month 11 to 12, now is when you can ask. Now is when you take the step to invite them to invest again because you've earned it. You've shown up 5 times before the next ask. You've made them feel seen. So now when you ask, you can reference everything you shared along the way. And when you ask, you can ask for a meaningful upgrade. Really important to note here, a plan that isn't scheduled doesn't exist. So put it on the calendar and assign an owner. Write it down. If it's not written down, it's not a plan. So make sure you follow through. Now, I promised we'd come back to mid-level donors, and I mean it. This is the segment I'm most passionate about because right now it's so dramatically undercultivated, and that's across many, many sectors. Your $1,000 donors to your $10,000 donors are sitting in the middle of your database being treated traditionally like annual fund donors. They're not high enough to get flagged for major gift development, and you don't necessarily have a mid-tier of development to move donors through the pipeline. They're not annual fund donors. They are your future major gift prospects, and they deserve something different. So here's 3 things to do immediately. The first, define your threshold. What does mid-level mean for your specific organization? It's different if you're a $500,000 shop versus a $5 million shop. So know your number and document it. Document it in your resource development annual plan. Document it in your stewardship calendar. Make it well known throughout the organization. The second is assign a relationship owner. Every mid-level donor should have a human being who is personally accountable for that relationship. Your executive director, your development director, a mid-level officer, if you have one. Personal connection is key, and it's what cultivation actually is. And then the third, Consider creating a named giving society. Give this group an identity, something like the Founder Circle or the Visionary Guild. Offer exclusive benefits, make them feel worthy with your organization. You could send early impact reports, maybe a behind the scenes event, or a personal phone call from your executive director. But make them feel like they belong to something because they do. These donors, again, are your major gift pipeline. We have to start treating them that way. Strategy 3, and a very important strategy, one of the quickest to implement, a monthly giving program. So just a quick poll in the chat. Does your organization have a named monthly giving program with distinct branding and recognition? I'd love to know. Does your organization have a named monthly gift giving program with distinct branding and recognition? Okay, Amber, no, that's okay. Beacons of Hope, love that, Melina. See if we get a couple more responses. Does your org have a named monthly giving program with distinct branding and recognition? Okay, Amber was our brave one to share no, and that's okay, Amber. I'm sure some who are on here know, but my last org was Trailblazers. Love that. Susie, no, we do not. That's okay. That just means most of you have a massive retention opportunity sitting untapped, and that's fantastic. We love that. So let's talk about it. Monthly donors retain at 80 to 90%. You say that again. Monthly donors retain at 80 to 90%. That's huge. The highest of any donor segment. They give 42% more per year than one-time donors. And 31% of all online revenue now comes from monthly gifts. So this is your most loyal, your most valuable, your most predictable revenue stream. And most organizations treat it like an afterthought. So how do you build it? How do you get started if you don't have one? Well, first, start by identifying the donors giving, say, about $100 to $500 a year. 120 is the typical threshold right now. This is per M&R Benchmarks report of 2025. But 100 to 500 a year are typical strong monthly giving candidates. And start converting the math for them. $25 a month instead of $300 a year sounds a little bit more manageable, doesn't it? And often it gets you more. Make it very easy. One-click upgrade on your thank you page or renewal emails. Celebrate those donors. Give your monthly donors a name, a society, exclusive perks. Make them feel like they're a part of something bigger. And here's the one I want you to screenshot. Never cancel quietly. If a credit card or payment fails, contact that donor within 48 hours. They didn't leave on purpose. A failed card that goes unaddressed is a donor you lost for free when a single phone call or a single email could have kept them. So keep a close eye on those payments. If any of them fail, reach out quickly and connect with the donor. So we've got another poll. We've got another opportunity to share. What's one word that describes how you feel about reaching out to lapsed donors? Tell me in one word, what comes up when you think about reaching out to lapsed donors? I can tell you I've been in enough team meetings to know that lapsed donor outreach is the one thing that gets pushed to the bottom of the list consistently. There's always a reason not to call. Hopeful, awkward. What comes up for you when you think about reaching out to lapsed donors? Oh, Buffy, I see potential. Love it. Time consuming, praying. Good. Here's what I want you to hold on to. Lapsed donors are not angry at you. They didn't leave because they don't like you. And in almost every case, they left because you went quiet and they didn't feel like a priority anymore. And that's on us in the nonprofit sector. And that means that the re-engagement conversation doesn't have to be a sales pitch, which makes it so much easier. It might be an apology wrapped in impact. It's a, hey, we've missed you. Here's what's happening since you've been away. Labs donors already know your mission and they already trust you. Reactivation is not a sales pitch, it's reconnection. So lead with impact, not necessarily urgency. This is a 3-step process to re-engage some of those lapsed donors. The first is to segment those lapsed donors. And again, you heard me reference this. It's at the bottom as well, in case you're not sure what these two lists mean. The Liebunt and Seibunt list. Liebunt means last year, but unfortunately not this year. And Seibunt means some year, but unfortunately not this year. So pull those two lists from your CRM and prioritize by the last gift amount and recency, and identify your top 20 of those donors for personalized outreach. So here's step 2. Now that we've identified, you're probably going to see a theme here for all of you familiar with the donor cycle. Step 2, cultivate. Phone calls first to everyone on that top 20 list. Reference their last gift specifically, the amount, and what it supported if you're aware of what it supported. The message can be really simple. Hey, we've missed you, and here's what your past support made possible. That's it. No guilt, no urgency, just reconnection and impact. We missed you. We'd love to chat a little bit more. We would love to let you know what your past support made possible. Here's where we're at today. And then step 3, mail or email for everyone else on that list. So you've got your top 20. That's who you're going to call. The remainder of the list, send them an impact story or maybe a simple reply card or link. You could even use a QR code. Make it a very low friction reentry. Make it very easy for them to say yes. So here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to guilt trip them. We haven't heard from you. It's not an opening. It's an accusation. Also, don't send a generic appeal. That signals nothing has changed at your organization. And don't wait too long. Once a donor hits 18 to 24 months lapsed, reactivation becomes dramatically harder. Lapsed donors already trusted you once. You're not selling them on anything new. You're giving them a reason to come back to you. So draw it into the impact, thank them for their time, thank them for their previous giving, and help reestablish the relationship. Strategy 5, data. And I'm going to say something that's going to make some of you a little bit uncomfortable. If you don't know your retention rate right now, your metrics aren't working for you. They're just sitting in your CRM and they're collecting dust. But that's okay, because now after this webinar, we are going to take the time to look at our retention rates. Data is only as powerful as the decisions it drives. So let's talk about the 5 metrics that you need to be tracking monthly, not annually, monthly. The first is retention rate, but not just blended. Track it by segment. Take a look at your first-time donors, your repeat donors, your major donors, and your monthly donors. A blended rate can sometimes hide the real story, but an average gift by year, is it trending up or down? Is it declining averages? Declining averages signal disengagement before you lose the donor entirely. Upgrade rates. How many donors gave more than last year? Upgrade rates signal deepening loyalty. The lapsed rate. How many donors didn't renew on schedule? And then finally, your Liebunt count. How many are sitting in your database right now waiting to hear from you? The sector average for first-year donor retention rate we've mentioned is 18%. The RD Pro Coach standard is 45% or better. The sector average for multi-year donor retention is 55 to 60%. Our standard is 65 to 80%. Monthly donor retention sector average, 70%. Standard, 80 or better. Acknowledgement turnaround sector average is 1 to 3 weeks. The standard must be 48 hours or less. If you take nothing else away from today, start making those changes, start implementing changes so that you can be under that 48-hour threshold. And as the principle goes, what gets measured gets managed. You can't fix retention problems if you aren't tracking. So we're going to open up Slido for some questions right now. I really want to understand, what is your biggest barrier to retention? What's the biggest barrier for tracking? And what's your biggest barrier to understand those metrics? What is your biggest barrier to understanding those metrics? It looks like our Slido didn't populate here. So in the chat, what is the biggest barrier? Time and staff. Absolutely, Marianne. Time and staff. No one's tracking it. Okay. Just no one's tracking it. Disorganization in our CRM, lack of time, really common, Amber. Susie, I just need to do it. I get that, Susie. Kudos. So while some of those questions, I'm sorry, while some of those notes are coming through, we're going to talk about what to actually do with everything we've covered today. Melina, new CRM, don't know how to pull all the data yet. Okay. Valid concerns. So you don't need a perfect plan. You just need a starting point. And here is your starting point. So here's how we're going to fix retention in the next 30 days. This week, week 1, today, start measuring today. Don't put it off until Monday. Audit your acknowledgement process. Time your current turnaround from the moment a gift is received to the moment an acknowledgement goes out. Find every single bottleneck and fix what's broken first. This is your single highest ROI action, and it should be done before you do anything else. So that's the goal this week. So first thing we're going to do, focus on week 1. What does the acknowledgement process look like? What can we do to improve? Then next week and week 3, pull your live hunt list. Identify those 20 lapsed donors we talked about, again, by gift amount and recency, and write a phone script. AI is everywhere if you need help. You can quickly type into ChatGPT, think like a nonprofit development person, write a script for a lapsed donor. But write your script down so that you're not left empty-handed. Make 5 calls next week. And I'm serious, they're not optional. Make 5 calls. These are warm leads already in your database. They're the fastest path to growing recovered revenue. So focus on that next week. And then week 3, review your monthly giving offer. If you don't have a program, design the ask this week. And if you do, identify 10 upgrade candidates from your annual fund and draft a conversion email. Again, AI is prevalent everywhere. And if you're not sure what to write, consider joining us at the RD Pro Coach. We have tons of templates available for both of those things. Or email me. I'm happy to help. Week 4, build your stewardship calendar. Map your 5 touch point plan by donor segment and assign owners. Remember, if it's not assigned, if it's not written down, it's not getting done. Put it on the calendar, because a plan that isn't scheduled doesn't exist. So do these 4 things over the next 30 days. And I broke it down a little bit more deeply at the bottom. We're going to fix our thank you process. We're going to focus on those 10 lapsed donors, and we're going to work on calling them over a 2-week period. And then we're going to do our written stewardship plan. We're going to focus on that written stewardship plan and start incorporating it across multi-channels within our organization. Okay, last poll question. Tell me on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 meaning I have no idea where to start, and 5 is I'm starting tomorrow. How confident do you feel right now about implementing at least one of these strategies in the next 30 days? Again, 1, not sure what I'm doing, not sure how to start. 5, I'm getting it done tomorrow. Susie, amazing, 5. 5, Marianne, love it. It's exactly what I want to see. Hold that energy. 5, love it, Melina. Now, for those of you that are thinking, my heart says 5, my brain says we shall see. Totally fair, Buffy. Totally fair. Now, some of you might be thinking, I might be in a 1 to 3. That's okay. That's why the resource library exists. So for many of you that know me, you know that I embarked on this endeavor a little over a year and a half ago to build a resource library for nonprofits to use tools, templates, guides, etc. The goal in the beginning was just to shorten everybody's chase because we were all doing the same thing. But what it turned into, excuse me, what it turned into was an opportunity to provide help and support to nonprofits and save them time and money. So if you're not sure where to start and you need templates and resources, come join us over at the RD Pro Coach and consider jumping onto our resource library. Download these tools. They're already available and they're prepped and ready for you to customize and just plug and play at your organization. You'll also find all of our materials, all of our webinars recorded there as well. So you can definitely check all those pieces out if you're in that 1 to 3 category and you're just not really sure where to start. And if you're in the 4 to 5 category, come join us as well. So before we open it up to Q&A and talk about our challenges moving forward, talk about the challenge moving forward for the next 30 days, I did want to draw your attention. We're having an additional webinar at the end of the month around major gift cultivation, which helps really define what prospect research to the ask looks like. So if you're not sure how to dig into major gifts, jump on that link. You can click the link. You're going to receive this PowerPoint as well as a couple of tools as a thank you for joining us today. So or click that link and join us on March 25th at 1 o'clock. So I want to talk about just open Q&A. I want to know what your biggest retention challenge is. And I left almost 20 minutes in the session to really talk about those challenges so we can help address what some active challenges that you're running into during this time. So a couple of thoughts I had and questions that we get quite a bit at the RD Pro Coach. One is acknowledgement. So what's the biggest obstacle to improving your donor acknowledgement speed right now? Monthly giving. Who's running your monthly giving program? What's your current first-year donor retention rate? How many currently have a written stewardship plan? Just a few prompts to get us started, but I would love to address any questions that you all have about retention rate and policies and procedures to get plans started. What's your biggest challenge? And feel free to pop it right into the chat. Our Slido is also working. If you want to use the Q&A, you can. So much data. It's overwhelming where to start. Absolutely, Tracy. I understand. The best thing you can do is start pulling the last gift and the date that the last gift was made. So look at the amount and look at the last gift that was made. Identify your lapsed donors from last year, and then eventually you can get more sophisticated with some year. But right now, focus on the last year's data and start segmenting those donors out. Then employ this 30-day strategy. Call those top 20. That's where you get started. Pull the list, review it, segment down to the top 20 and get started. And Tracy, you can always email or call if you need help too. What other challenges are we seeing with retention? Culture shift from transitioning from corporate events to individual giving. Absolutely, Marianne. That's hard. That's tough stuff. We love to see donors move through the cycle. And many of you, I'm sure, are aware of what that donor pyramid looks like. So the base of the pyramid is typically one-time donors or event donors, and then it moves up a level. You've got your mid donors, your mid-major, your majors, and then your planned gift donors. Think of transitioning those donors from entryway to moving them up through the pipeline. And the best way to do that is cultivation. So take time to learn about those donors. And you can absolutely overlay some automations to that segment as well. Just ensure they're personalized. Don't send out generic materials. So if you're thinking about that culture shift, applying some of those principles and then helping your board and general organization understand the data that was derived from that is going to move mountains. It's always helpful to see real data sets when we're talking to our boards, when we're talking to our organizations about how to make that transition. So consider testing and then providing results after. Melina, time blocking for outreach. Things always pop up. Absolutely. The hardest thing to do is managing calendars. I personally have to block out time in between meetings or at the end of the beginning of the day. I've got a couple of pockets during the week that I block out, and I am religious about sticking to them. The biggest point is you have to stick to those time blocks. If we don't prioritize retention work, it's first of all, it's the easiest ROI to let slip through your fingers, but it requires so much less energy than it does major gift strategy, than it does planned gift strategy, and even in some cases, annual gift strategy. So prioritize or loop in some additional team members to help share the load. That's always a great opportunity and a great way to foster collaboration among teams. Chandler, clean data that's trustworthy. That's a hard one, Chandler. It's very hard to rely on data that is not trustworthy. I had an organization recently just do a donor survey to update all of that information, and they're leaning really heavily into what we would commonly know as major gift strategy, but for them is just discovery. So they're meeting with as many donors as they can. They've dispatched out their board just on fact-finding information, understanding each one of those different donors inherently, what makes them tick, how they're a part of the organization, and bringing them back into the fold. So you might consider some variation of a survey. And Chandler, if you're looking for any other data around that and other examples, please shoot me an email. I'd love to talk to you more. Jess, how do you handle encouraging board committee engagement and thanking donors? It's a great question, Jess. So little steps make huge impact. I start with one or two things for board members to take away and provide them with every single piece of information they need to get the job done. So for your board, this may look like scripts for phone calls. This may look like a list of donors, their phone numbers and emails. It also might look like assigning them a board buddy of someone who's getting these things done and ensuring that they're holding each other accountable. You also might consider, and I've worked with another organization that does this, if you want to loop in board members to say thank you, have thank you cards at all of your board meetings and have a list available. Last gift amount, name, address, etc. You can even go as far as pre-listing the addresses on the envelopes. So all the board members need to do is write out their thank you note, pop it in the envelope, and send it off. Or they could write the thank you note and hand it back to you at the end of the board meeting. That's okay too. There's always some time as board members are coming in or as board members are exiting to just leave a little bit of extra time for stewardship. You can also hold it on your board agenda as an opportunity to deepen their understanding of what stewardship looks like. Totally up to you. Buffy, this session has reminded me deep data diving and cleanup needs to become a priority in a sea of competing priorities. Thank you. Good call, Buffy. Absolutely. Data analytics and data cleanup, data dives, they're important strategies. And we can't forget about those strategies as we're building out our annual plans as we work with donors. So use the data that you have and ensure it's shored up so that you can make the right decisions about where your activity goes within the calendar year. So keep in mind, very small steps make big change. For this particular example, we were just talking about a subset of 20 donors, 20 phone calls throughout 2 weeks. You probably make 20 phone calls as it is to your major donors, to your event sponsors. Think about how easy it would be to incorporate some lapsed donor work with all of that. So I know we covered a lot today about donor retention. Any other questions that are on your mind? I wanted to just pause for a minute. These are the sources that were cited throughout the entire presentation. So if you want to dig in anywhere or you want to talk through anything else, let me know. You'll have live links in the presentation as well, in case you want to dig into any of those reports specifically. And then finally, I am going to stay until people drop off to answer questions, but I want to be respectful at your time. Like I said, you can email me, you can join us on the website. This presentation will be up on our YouTube with our recordings, as well as be on our website. If you are a RD Pro Coach member, you'll find these in your library, as well as the member only portal presentations. Our YouTube is only our free webinars to everyone. And thank you all so much for being here today. I mean it. You showing up for your donors today just by being in this room, or you're showing up for your donors today just by being in this room, and that matters. So go fix that thank you process first. Everything else builds from there. Like I said, I'm going to stick around and answer any questions that you might have. But if you have any additional questions, jump on. And if not, I'll see you hopefully on March 25th. Thank you all.